What is it?
It's time to go back. Welcome.
Hey there, welcome back to Generation S. It is a podcast about growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s. I'm Dan Kemp, and I am joined today by my wife, Beth.
Hello.
Why do you always sound so excited when I get you on here?
I'm just super chill, man.
You are super chill, yes.
I am.
Well, Beth, welcome back. You the last time you were on, I believe, we talked about the Little Mermaid movie, right?
Sure enough.
Well, both of them. Technically, you're on 2 episodes in a row. It was the original and then the reboot. And today, I wanted to talk about something else that had certainly penetrated society when we were kids and young adults. Maybe not so much now, and we'll talk about that as well. But when you say the term mall culture, right? I don't think that exists anymore. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely not. At least not in the way that it did when we were kids.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No, I mean, you're not going to necessarily... I mean, I'm just thinking of movies and TV shows where the mall was like a plot point or a setting that was so common.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have that anymore. When was the last time you saw a movie or a TV show have a scene at a mall unless it's featuring old people going shopping at a mall?
Stranger Things.
Yeah, but that took place in the 80s.
I know, it's being funny.
You're exactly right, though. That's the whole point, is that it's not really a thing anymore, and I think we kind of witnessed the end of it as we, grew into adulthood. So I want to talk about that today, because I quite frankly, I've gotten a lot of requests to talk about mall life, and I didn't know who to talk about it with, and I thought it might make sense to get kind of a diverse viewpoint from obviously a gender standpoint, and you have a very different viewpoint of the mall that I might have as a kid,
Sure.
Growing up. But let's just jump into it then. Before we do, the obligatory, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you recommend this podcast to people you know. If you know anyone else that grew up in this time period where you saw the decline of shopping malls throughout America or whatever country you're living in, recommend the show to a friend of yours. I would love that so much. And make sure you're checking out our merchandise store if you are looking to support the podcast in other ways besides just listening, which, by the way, thank you so much for. I really appreciate you listening, obviously. But if you want to go above and beyond and grab yourself maybe a t-shirt or a coffee mug, the link to the merchandise store will be in the description of this episode. I can't give you just a straight website because it's like one of those Teespring websites with a bunch of random letters and numbers, and quite frankly, it would be just a jumbled mess if I were to say it out loud. But the link is in the description. You can check it out. All right, let's jump into it. I guess what we'll kind of do is we'll start with the rise of mega malls. I guess that's what they're calling them, is mega malls. What we know is shopping malls, because I guess back before then it was all local mom and pop shops and
like a strip mall, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's strip malls. I don't really know, but you mentioned Stranger Things, which took place in the mid '80s, and I think that's really when they started to kick off. So by the time we were in the malls, walking around, mall culture had already been a thing for, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. But let me ask you, just from your memories of mall going, obviously we're going to talk about our experience, going to malls, on our own as teenagers, as young adults. But as a kid, did you go to the mall a lot, like with your parents or anything like that?
I mean, yeah, usually it was around like back to school situations or whatever, like where we would have to get, you go to Sears to get your clothes and that kind of stuff to get your, if you outgrew stuff from the year before. But I mean, I wasn't hanging out in malls until high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we went to malls. We would go with my grandmother sometimes and catch food, one of the restaurants that was like in the mall.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. Not the food court, but like, how they were
they had like the anchor restaurants or whatever. Yeah.
So we would do that over the summer and stuff where we would like go, I'm trying to think, but that was pretty much my like little childhood.
Same here. Yeah, I remember because same thing, almost to a T. We would go school shopping. J.C. Penney's was our store. That was the one we would go to.
Yeah, we did a Penny's too.
Yeah, so but what else was there? There was one called
Burlington.
Well, there's Burlington Coat Factory, which we actually did not have, but there was one called Caldor.
Yep,
you remember
we had a
Caldor?
Caldor, yep.
That was a discount store. Again, if you've listened to the show before, I grew up. I guess lower middle class is probably the best way to describe my financial situation growing up. We weren't poor by any means, but we certainly weren't going out and buying a lot of name brand stuff, especially when I was younger. But so it was a lot of discount stores. Again, J.C. Penney's, Caldor. I'm trying to think what other stores.
Was Caldor just a northern thing though?
I don't know. I guess that's true. If you're listening to this,
yeah,
you look that up. And while you're looking that up, we'll talk about, just kind of malls that scaled up in popularity across the country. So you had, obviously the Mall of America, up in Minnesota. There's a couple other ones that I Googled as far as like giant malls. One was called the West Edmonton Mall. There is actually a mall that is near us where we live now called the Mall of Georgia, which is certainly not to the same scale as the Mall of America, but it's pretty sizable for where we live. So there are still a ton of malls now that are just massive that really kind of came to be through the late 80s, the early 90s, and have stuck around through thick and thin. But did you find out more about Caldor?
Yeah, it looks like it was a mostly set to. Oh wait, there were some. But it looks like they were mostly set to the Northeast, which is where they were founded.
Okay.
But there were some, let's see, one in Montana, Ohio, 2 in Washington, Texas, Idaho. Anyway, but
all right,
it was mainly in the Northeast.
Semi-national presence, but mostly in the Northeast. So again, I feel like a lot of my friends from back home do listen to this, so you may remember Caldor. But if you're listening to this out in California and you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. I thought everyone knew Caldor, but apparently not.
Big Lots for.
Well, was there not a Big Lots up in the north?
I don't remember seeing Big Lots until
down here when we moved south. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway.
Regional stores everywhere. Anyway. So yeah, that's kind of how they kind of blew up was the the mid 80s and just really took a hold of, the 90s and again the early 2000s, which is right around
it was just the quote unquote perceived convenience of like
sure.
Holy shit, there's you
can get all these
so
stores.
many different types of stores in one place.
You don't have to drive everywhere.
Right.
It's
that's
inside.
So convenient.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious considering where we're at in the year 2023.
Oh, well,
but
and
anyway.
We'll get there. But I want to kind of go through really the different, I don't know what you'd call it, like just the categories of stores in the mall, like that you go to, whether it's just to walk around or for a purpose. So we talked about back to school shopping, clothing. Let's talk about fashion, okay? Because obviously a huge part of the mall culture was the different clothing brands that took off in popularity, specifically because of the mall. I've got a few here that I just wrote down that came to mind. So Abercrombie and Fitch, obviously, which I think is starting to make a comeback-ish. Very different than it was, but there's actually. Did you watch that documentary that had come out a little while back about Abercrombie and Fitch or no?
Some of it, yes.
It was it's insane. Anyway, so you had that. You had the Gap. You had Jenko, which I don't know if it was a store, but it was a clothing brand. But I don't know if they ever had their own store. I actually saw them in like J.C. Penney's was where I saw Jenko jeans mostly.
Yeah, no, that was more. That wasn't.
Yeah, what are some stores that you remember seeing clothing wise that may or may not be around still? But
PacSun.
Yep, which I saw the other day when I was at a mall.
Aeropostale.
Yep.
Old Navy. Those are pretty much my
American Eagle
top 3. Yeah, I mean yes, but I
not one that you went to.
Not one of those ones that I listed were my top.
Those were
3.
okay. So your go-to clothing stores.
My sister was more the limited 2 crowd.
Oh yeah,
a little bit younger, so Justice now or whatever.
Okay, what about like Hot Topic?
Oh yeah, and Spencer's. Yeah, I didn't necessarily go there for
clothing.
Just accessories mostly.
Okay.
I don't know that my mom, was too keen on the, that's devil worshiping stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
for sure. What about so like Claire's, right? That's that they're still around too. Actually, we have a Claire's. Well, I was gonna say we have a Claire's store near us. I had never seen one outside of a mall before. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is now. But I used to go there, like in high school when I had girlfriends. I would go to Claire's to get them presents because they're cheap as hell, and like it looked like I put thought into buying jewelry for them when it was just whatever was hanging on the rack at Claire's.
Oh my!
Yeah. Oh, I know. It was right there. So I'm thinking of a mall in my head, and let's actually do that real quick. Like when I think of a mall in my head of like, okay, what's your go-to visually? What shopping mall? I have one in my head. It's called the Aviation Mall. It's a very small mall where I grew up in Queensbury, New York. And it was a one-floor mall, which down here is unheard of. But it was a one-floor mall, and it had like two different wings to it. And you had a couple of anchor stores. They had a Target that they actually built into the mall. So it was like an anchor. You could get there from the outside, but you could also get there from inside the mall. You had the JCPenney's. You had the Sears. You had Caldor, which became the Bon-Ton. Do you ever heard of the Bon-Ton?
Mm-mm.
That might have been a Northeastern one as well, like a department store type of deal.
Yeah.
What else? I'm trying to think of like the anchor. Those are the big ones. Of course, you had a movie theater, which up there was Regal Cinema. Down here, it's all AMC. I mean, there's some Regals.
Well, it got bought out because it used to. The one up by us used to be a Regal, but whatever.
Oh, it did?
Anyway,
The
yeah.
one, okay. So, and even before Regal, it was called Hoyt Cinema. I don't know if that rings
I'd
a
never
bell.
heard about
That
it.
might have
No,
been, again, a
never
North.
heard
I don't know. But a very small mall. But again, in my head, when I picture the mall, that's the mall I think of. Like, do you have a go-to mall in your head when you think of a mall that you went to the most?
Well, so here's the interesting thing, me compared to you, is that I moved all over the
Yeah.
entire world. No, not the world, but the East Coast.
Yeah.
And so I have a mall. When you describe your mall, that it fits perfectly to a T. The one that I mentioned, going to lunch with my grandmother.
Yeah.
It had a Burlington and either a Sears or Penny's, I can't remember, on either end. It had a pet store. It had a Friendlies. That's where we would go eat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we ate the Friendlies. And then a bunch of like little tiny shops in between. And it was a single floor. It might have even been.
So was this up
like
in
a
New Hampshire
Kmart
when you
building.
were?
Yeah. So that's the one that we would go to. I also lived in Florida for a time, and those malls were absolutely gorgeous. I think it was called Town Center Mall in Boca Raton.
Okay.
That one was, oh, wow, it was beautiful. It was bougie.
Yeah.
Very bougie. But it was nice. And then Sawgrass Mills over in Fort Lauderdale Plantation area.
I've heard of that one. I've actually seen
That
that one. Yeah.
the Rainforest Cafe in it.
Oh, yep.
Loved going there. That one was great. And that one was, I mean, I felt like I could get lost in there. Like it was really easy to get lost because there was like so much to do. And then let's see, when I came up, the two malls that I spent the most time at were the Mall of Georgia.
Yep.
In Buford, and Discover Mills Mall in Sugarloaf.
Okay.
Or I guess it's Duluth. I don't know.
Well, so you know what's funny? You mentioned like being able to get lost in these different malls. Honestly, I feel like I've been to enough malls across the country now where at this point, if you've seen one, you pretty much know how it's laid out. They're all pretty much, unless it's like a very unique situation, they've all got like, especially ones with like 2 floors. They've got like the different levels where you walk in and you basically, I don't want to say it's like a T-bone shape. I don't even know. But like, I feel like all malls kind of look the same after a while.
I mean, because I know like there's companies that own these, like Simon is one
that's
of
true.
the largest. And there was another one. I can't remember.
But and they might have designed them all in a similar
where
way
they
on
all
purpose.
had kind of a similar.
Yeah, because there were malls that I remember that were very unique looking. So it's not always the case, but I feel like now when I think of a mall that I go to now, like whether it's one by us or one like an hour and a half away, whatever, it's pretty much the same layout, and that could be just because whoever built these malls was the same construction company or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So that might be. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other clothing companies. So the ones you mentioned before were definitely go-tos for me. I went to TJ Maxx a lot, so we had a TJ Maxx in our mall. I don't know if that was that a thing?
Some did, yeah, not all, but some.
You mentioned Old Navy. What else? I think those are the main ones clothing-wise, because I did go to Old Navy a lot. I loved, in college especially, the $2 flip-flops.
Yeah, I feel like the one thing with Old Navy is that it was, and honestly, I mean, no reason behind it. I don't dislike them, but I used to shop there all the time because I felt like their clothes were very, very affordable for like a high school kid who wanted something trendy. But obviously, we were working. I mean, we were lucky if we were getting $5 an hour. Like $6 an hour.
No,
so
your buck went a long way.
Exactly.
at
Yeah,
Old
I would
Navy.
get excited because I could go shopping back, closer to when I was in high school, and I wanted to wear something trendy. And mom and dad were like, "Yeah, no, I'll buy you the bare minimum, but if you want, the latest and whatever." And so I felt like, I could go to Old Navy and just get the coolest stuff and not be like poor after.
Right. Well, and honestly, like, I mean, of course, even now, but back then especially, like, my first thing would, let's go look at the clearance rack, right? Let's see what's on the clearance
I still
rack.
do that. I'm a grown-ass adult with a job.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, but I'm sure it probably started here, but they always had really good clearance stuff. And I would always just be like, let me just check it out. Maybe there's a cool t-shirt or whatever it was. So I think that was, and again, we both came from similar financial situations. So if you're listening to this and you did grow up with a bit more of a, fortunate financial situation, you could be hearing me going, oh, yeah, hashtag not my life, because maybe you were shopping at Hollister or Abercrombie and Fitch, or I guess American Eagle was a little lower end than that, right? That was a little more affordable than like Abercrombie. I feel like, because I feel like if you were to go to like Abercrombie and get a polo for it's like $60, whereas you go to like Aeropostale or American Eagle and maybe it was like $25. Because I would get Aeropostale. I felt like that was I felt very privileged to go to Aeropostale. That was like my name brand. Like I would buy like all their hoodies. You know what I mean? I couldn't wear a lot of their like pants because I've always been kind of a bigger dude and a short dude. So to get something that's wide and short, the selection's pretty limited. That's another reason why I loved Old Navy, quite frankly, was because their clothing was very generous in its sizing, and I always found that their clothes fit me pretty well for my body type, I guess. What about the Gap? Did you go to the Gap a lot or not really?
I mean, a little bit. That wasn't a go-to necessarily, but I've been there, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Sure. But like, it wasn't one that was like your freak, like in high school or whatever, if you were going to buy something nice.
No, like I said, it was either Aeropostale, Old Navy, or PacSun.
Yeah. And then, did you ever go to like any like local clothing stores or things like that? Or that was kind of boutiques, I guess. Maybe that was a bit more bougie.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Okay. So, in addition, obviously, to buying clothing, one of the other things I loved as a kid, and I want to talk about, kind of other entertainment you could get at the mall, like movies and whatnot in a second, but was toy stores. Yeah. So there was one toy store that we had. It was called KB Toys.
Yes.
Do you remember that? Yeah. Yes. So, but it was a mall store, right? That was the thing. Was you couldn't find it outside of malls.
No.
But I mean, to me, that rivaled like Toys R Us in terms of what you could,
My dad's biggest rival.
That's right. Your dad worked for Toys R Us for many years. But I remember KB Toys in particular because they always had that little area in the front, like the demo area.
With the yipping dog.
That had the yipping dog.
Frickin' time.
Or do you remember the Bumble Balls?
Yeah.
Where you turn those on
but
and
it was more so the sensory overload of the yip, 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 and then it would flip.
Yes. So they always had those in the front, and that was obviously to draw kids in, and I would always let's just walk through KB Toys and see what there is. And it was always overpriced, honestly. Like by the time I was looking in toy stores, Kmart was around, Walmart was around. So, we were getting our toys elsewhere, but it was just fun to look through as a kid, right?
Oh yeah, no. Well, and the thing is I would walk through there, but we never purchased anything there because my dad would get the stuff right off the truck and bring it home. So really, there was no purpose to us. So I never really did ever shop at
But it
KB
gave you
Toys.
Ideas maybe for toys that you wanted or whatever to put on the Christmas list or whatever. So anyway, I didn't have it in my notes to talk about toy stores, but it just came to me and I did want to mention it because mall toy stores were on a totally different level. Same thing with like video game stores too, but it's not something you can really relate to here. But I feel like I've talked about video game stores plenty in previous episodes, so I feel like I've covered that. So no worries there. But let's talk about other things you could do at the mall besides just shop. Because in addition to all the different stores, there was also, I'm just reading here of like some malls had, arcades, right? That was a big thing for me. Ours was called Tilt. And it was a small arcade, but it had all the latest, like DDR. It had different air hockey and things like that. You could get tickets there to buy stuff. Did you have an arcade at your I'm assuming you probably did.
If we did, so at the Discover Mills Mall, that one was actually a very unique mall. It had like an airsoft
wow.
like thing. It was supposed to be designed to be like one of those where I don't know, it was trying to be like all cutting edge and whatever. And this was it opened up, I want to say 2001.
Yeah.
I want to say is when it opened, so 23 years ago ish.
Okay.
But it had moonlight golf or whatever, like the mini golf.
We got some mini golf at our malls. Yeah,
moonlight mini golf. It had a little like an airsoft like area. It had like an obstacle course. And in addition to like there were stores and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah.
It had a movie theater.
Was this also the one that had the Medieval Times attached to it?
Yes, the Medieval Times was attached to it. It still is. It's still open. what else? I mean, there was like that was the place that Dave and Buster's was. There was a Dave
Oh,
and
yeah.
Buster's attached to it.
So when you think
there's a pottery thing, like you could
Oh,
like just
really?
throw your own pottery and paint it and stuff, like classes. I mean, literally, this was, and it opened up. I mean, when I was approaching high school.
Yeah.
So,
So back then, especially,
I mean, that was the place.
that was the place to
People
go.
had birthday parties there all the freaking time. Like,
At the
there
mall,
was
yeah.
somewhere, yeah, like either Dave and Buster's or you could do at the Pottery Place, or like we were always like, and I thought it was pretty genius. I mean,
Well, not a lot of malls do that, and all the things you've mentioned. Like again, I go back to the mall I grew up with, the Aviation Mall. We had an arcade. We had a movie theater, which I feel like that's pretty standard. Is you're typically now. Funnily enough, the movie theater we pretty much go to now is a standalone theater. But
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, like I never saw a movie theater that wasn't attached to a mall before, because that's how it always was for me growing up. But yeah, I mean, the mall I had was just too small to have anything cool attached to it, other than an arcade, which was fun. It was nice, but yeah, I've seen malls where it's just insane. Like you can literally do everything there. And honestly, those are the ones that are still probably doing okay in 2023. Like I feel like some of the stores in Discover Mills, Sugarloaf Mills or whatever it is now, but it's still around and it's still very popular.
Yeah,
maybe not for the stores inside, but more so just for the everything else that's attached to it, right?
I wonder. Yeah, it makes me wonder. Like, was the developer and designer was he or she like before their time, like really thinking like, all right, I need to make sure that this stays competitive because I could see this going by the wayside, or was it just happenstance, just some
Well, and I'll say this, you think about when that mall was built. You said it was like 2001.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, the internet was a thing. You had places you could buy things online. So maybe he was, or whoever it was, maybe they were thinking.
Yeah, it's something that I've thought about, like,
Yeah.
I wonder if the person was like just a revolutionary, like just a visionary.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? You're absolutely right, though. Obviously, we can't not talk about the fact that like the Mall of America is basically an amusement park that happens to have stores.
Yeah. That's a bucket list place for me.
I was gonna say I've never been there before, but I want to.
Well, we've got to go because we've got friends over there now.
We do. We have. If you're, hey guys, if you're listening in my Minnesota crowd, if you're listening, hi. Thank you for listening. And yeah, we definitely want to come up there and see you guys because I want to check out the Mall of America. Just to say I went, because I've seen it in movies. I've seen it in TV shows. I've read about it. They have a fantastic Ninja Turtles theme park built into it, which is I'm all about that life. So yeah, definitely want to check out the Mall of America. It's both of our bucket list. And our kids would love it. So yeah. Actually, our kids love the mall in general. I feel like every time we go to the mall,
they love the Lego store at the mall. They wouldn't give two craps if the mall.
All right, that's fair. But I don't know. I took Carl the other day. We walked around and it was fun. We had a good time. Anyway, let's talk food, right? Because in addition to buying stuff and having a great time and entertaining yourself in different avenues, you got to eat, right? So let's talk about kind of that food court culture, because I feel like. I mean, on one hand, I can count every single mall having like the certain
Sbarro
pizza, right? I was just gonna say, like, as far as like go-to places are probably gonna be in that mall, depending on where you live.
Chinese food.
Yeah, well, I think ours was Flaming Wok was the name of ours.
It was just you always had some random.
And you always had that very sweet old Chinese lady handing out samples in the food court.
And it tasted the same no matter what mall you went to.
Yes, which makes me wonder.
Right?
Did it all come from the same place?
I don't know, but it was did not matter what mall you were at. You're like, that pork tastes exactly the same.
Well, what's funny is that I can't remember a single time where I went and actually bought food, like paid for food at the Chinese place in the mall, which in hindsight is silly because I love Chinese food, but I would always get the Sbarro pizza, right? Because they had the giant slices.
The Chinese food, yeah.
No, I never got Chinese food. I'm trying to think what our mall had a Subway for a while in the food court. It had a Taco Bell for a little bit. Yeah. The one down here has all of them down have Chick-fil-A now.
Yes, Chick-fil-A,
which is great.
All hail Chick-fil-A.
I think one of them had a Moe's actually, which was pretty nice.
Okay.
But yeah, the Chinese food. There was always one called like the Farmer's Basket or something like that, or
they had the Mediterranean, like the
Greek food, or
yeah.
There's one by us actually that I hear down in Georgia that I love that has like corn dogs and like carnival food basically, which I always thought was kind of cool. But anyway, so those are the kind of the go-tos. You had the Chinese food, you had local fast food restaurant. I think McDonald's we had there in the mall.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember our McDonald's was when we first walked into the mall. It was on the left, and it was its own restaurant, kind of sit down. You mentioned like Friendly's. It eventually got converted into like front offices for the mall, and it shut down. But I remember that being a McDonald's that we would go eat at. And I remember this too. Do you remember when it was okay to like smoke in malls? Like, did you ever go to the mall and remember like seeing people smoking?
I remember like having to ask in restaurants for smoking versus non-smoking.
Yeah, which
I don't
was
know.
ridiculous, by the way.
I'm
'cause-
sure. It just didn't make that
So it
big
didn't-
of an impression.
But I
upon
remember
me.
like the McDonald's there, like you could smoke in because like my parents were smokers. So if we went to the mall, we'd go to McDonald's. We would sit down and they would have their ashtray out and they would smoke, and then we would go walk around the
Have
mall
a burger.
and have a burger. Yeah, like it was so
love that.
commonplace. But I don't know. I feel like I want to do an episode on smoking in restaurants eventually, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
Just side tangent though. Like honestly, you're gonna sit there and be like smoking or non-smoking
Yeah,
section.
the smoke doesn't just stay over there.
And you're
you know?
like, I mean, whatever. But anyway, it was funny. And I remember just random funny side tangent. Apparently, I mean, I was a kid, so I didn't realize when it went into effect that you weren't allowed to smoke in buildings anymore or whatever. And it was always my job, like random side story. It was always my job when we went in for whatever reason. It was whether it was self-appointed or my parents just told me to do it. When we would walk into a restaurant, I was always the one, I have no idea why, that would like go up and be like, oh, 4 people, 2 kids, 2 adults, non-smoking, please. And so I would do my spiel every time. And so I can't remember. It was one day we randomly went out to eat. And she's like, oh, honey, you can't smoke anywhere anyway. And I would look at her like, what?
It's amazing. Yeah.
Right? It was funny. But yeah, I had my little spiel and I would just walk in there. I'm like, hello, 4
Yeah.
people, 2 kids, 2 adults. Non-smoking, please.
Do you still
Whatever.
get tempted to say non-smoking?
I
or-
do, maybe not recently, but it was a long time. It
Yeah.
took me a while to like break that habit to like specify smoking or non-smoking, which is funny because again, sorry, I know this is going off, but my mother did smoke. So I don't know why every time we would go into a restaurant, I remember her saying non-smoke, and she wouldn't smoke in the restaurant.
Right,
so
right.
I don't know. It was just funny. It's just a weird core memory that I have.
Interesting. Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. Back to food courts.
yeah, my bad.
Your favorite food court meal that you would get there.
Oh, the Chinese food or whatever.
Well,
like I
okay,
would
what
get,
specifically?
like the orange chicken or whatever with rice and
Okay.
yeah, in the styrofoam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And they give you a
1000%.
ton of food.
Oh
there.
yeah, no, like I had no business eating all that.
Yeah. All right.
Mm-mm.
And I think my go-to, like I said, was either Sbarro's Pizza, but then if that shut down, which it did always, I would get Subway.
Okay.
Get the meatball marinara sub, the foot long. Back then, you could get it for $5. It was amazing, $5 foot long sub, and the Subway the cookies, incredible. Anyway,
Well, the other thing is, and these were never in the actual food court themselves, but well, I guess the ones that I saw, but there's always like an Annie's place.
oh yeah, well, we should talk
randomly,
about that. Yeah,
like,
the Annie Ann's pretzels.
Annie's and an
We had
Orange
one.
Julius.
We didn't
They
have an
were
Orange Julius.
never in the freaking food court, at least in the malls that I was in. They were like just randomly next to Victoria's Secret or some
Right.
shit. You're like, let's get some panties and a pretzel. Like, why the fuck not?
Well, you know, okay, let's talk about another food place. Yeah, because listen, let's just talk about all the food there. Because in addition to the food court, you would have random spots. So Annie Ann's pretzels,
Or Cinnabon.
Cinnabon.
Cinnabon was a rando place.
All right, here we go. Great American Cookie.
Yes.
That's another
just
one.
placed there next to like the freaking Spencer's.
Yep.
And you're like, sure. Cookie and weird things in the back of Spencer's. You know?
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, listen, you cannot. Tell me we don't live in America if you can't go buy a chocolate chip cookie and a dildo in the same 10-minute period.
Right?
That's
that's
living in America, folks.
That's freedom right there. That's
Well, we are recording this 4th of July weekend.
right. Right.
So
Merca.
listen, absolutely.
Dildos and cookies. Merca. I want to put that on a sign now.
Dildos and cookies.
Yes.
That's literally America in a nutshell. There it is. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Like, so obviously, like a random Starbucks will pop up, you know, like one of those
but
middle
that
things.
was. I feel like that's more recent. I don't.
I guess so. Yeah, Starbucks, because that wasn't a big
Starbucks-
thing for
I mean,
us
I
growing
know
up.
they've been around for a while before.
Well,
you
like
know.
West Coast though.
But yeah, but it originated over there, so I don't really. I mean, now, yes.
Yeah,
but
I guess back then it wouldn't have been a thing, but like the cookie place,
Yeah,
definitely
for
the
sure.
pretzels. Like I would always get the Annie Ann's
Cinnabon,
pretzels. We didn't have a Cinnabon, unfortunately. I know,
Oh.
and I've had Cinnabon since then. Honestly, the most
Sick.
Cinnabon I've eaten is at the airport. Is I'll get a Cinnabon.
Yeah.
But Orange Julius, same thing. We didn't have an Orange Julius
Yeah,
where I
Orange
lived.
Julius,
Or
yeah.
Jamba Juice, is that the other one that's like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
pops up? Or like a smoothie place will
Yeah,
pop
Smoothie
up.
King or whatever.
Smoothie King, yep. So, oh
yeah,
man,
yeah.
so many different random places. And again, it was, God, we're talking about malls, and I forgot how fun they were. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wish I was like an adult with actual disposable income back then.
Well, but okay, but here's the. I mean, that being said, like we did not have. At least, I mean, I financially we were both in the same boat, but like it's not like we have disposable income, and yet we found a way to
I know
spend hours doing nothing. I remember making like $20 stretch as far as I could.
Yeah.
Like as far as I could.
Yep.
And now I really think the $20 you'd be able to buy yourself just the food in the food court, which is really sad.
For one person. Yeah.
Right? For one person, right?
Yeah.
Versus like, I was like, woo, $20. What, I'm going to get some flip-flops from Old Navy.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to get some earrings.
$20 at Old Navy, and you're walking out of there with like 3 different outfit
you got like 3 bags of clothes. You're like,
you're
what the
freaking
heck?
balling. And, and I do remember the Old Navy shopping bags were massive.
Right?
Because I would always keep them to like store stuff in, or like if I'm taking laundry to a friend's house or whatever. I remember the Old Navy bags were freaking huge.
Money went much longer for,
Well, that's just, I feel like that's every generation. Like, I don't want to be the guy that says, back in my day.
55 cent bread. I don't know.
That was so random, and you sounded like, what's his face from Family Guy there.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chris. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. You sit there with your little sweet ass. Anyway, I don't know why I said that. Let's talk.
Continuing.
All right. So we've eaten our meal at the food court. Okay.
Yep,
We're going to keep walking around the mall. Okay. We've already bought clothing. We're good on that.
So, so that's when you go to like Spencer's or.
You go to the random gift shops.
Yeah.
But what about like the music store? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about those, because there's a few different ones that I can recall. One of which was called Suncoast. Do you remember Suncoast?
That I don't.
So Suncoast was a media store, I guess, because they sold music there. You could also buy DVDs or tapes back then. You could buy like whole seasons of shows. Like it was amazing. And they'd always have like movie posts. They'd have a movie playing in the back. It was basically like a movie. I mean, it was like the whole theme of like Suncoast was like a you had like the film decor or whatever. It was like a movie media store basically. So, but they would always have movies playing. What else? There was this one called Sam Goody.
Yep.
That was more music though, I think, right?
Yeah.
But I remember Sam Goody was with like the pink neon logo and everything like that. There was one that I think may still be around, but they were shutting down even back when I was in college. It was FYE.
Yep, I had one of those.
Which I think stood for your entertainment.
Yes.
That one again, I remember mostly for music, but toward the end, I remember seeing I bought DVDs from there.
You would have rows. I mean, that was just so crazy because for all the different genres.
Yeah.
Of music, you would have like rows, and then it was alphabetized, and they'd have like the little marker.
Yeah,
and you would like flip through.
You'd have the genres, and then you have the artists within the genres. I'm trying to think. I think I may have bought like I didn't buy a lot of CDs myself because by the time I could afford them, I was just burning CDs. But I remember buying like Creed. I think I bought that at an FYE. Yeah. I think I bought a Best of Bryan Adams CD at an FYE. I'm trying to think what else. I think those are like the big ones that I remember paying money to buy.
Well, see, the thing that I remember, because I bought CDs a lot. Like I was really into music and
but you weren't
whatever.
burning CDs.
I mean, we did too. Like see, I was also a chicken shit, and I really thought that the freaking FBI or some shit was gonna come and arrest me. So like I would accept burned CDs and LimeWire and Napster stuff from friends, but I was like, I'm not about that life. But anyway, no, the thing that's crazy that you don't have to deal with anymore is like you would buy the CD for like 1, maybe 2 songs you're on the radio, and you had to pray to God that the
other 10 songs on
there.
that
money that you spent. And there were a couple that I was like pissed. I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
There's like one good song.
You spent $20
on this damn album.
Yeah.
I could have had 3 outfits from the Old Navy. And
all right, let's talk about that then. So I want you to give me 2 CDs, okay? One is going to be the one you feel like you got ripped off on, as far as like one good song, maybe, whatever. Like, can you think of one in your head?
Oh shoot. See, I should have had one prepared because I can't remember.
I should have asked you before. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I'm sure there's like a handful where I was just like, what the flip? But.
Okay, it's fine. I put you on the spot.
Yeah.
All right, because I have an answer for the other one. Where like, which CD do you feel got the most bang for your buck?
Right?
Yes,
yeah.
I'll tell you which one it is. For me, at least, it was Nickelback. All the Right Reasons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because not only did I know all the songs, because I think they played more than half of that album on the radio, and they all got to like top 10.
Right. Yeah.
I just love Nickelback, and so I'll really anything at Nickelback. I still.
Other
love Nickelback.
random aside, though, they're coming to our local.
Oh really?
Amphitheater.
Oh, I didn't know that.
All right,
okay.
So part of me was like, nostalgia. What?
Yeah.
$100 just gets you on the lawn.
Oh geez. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I was like, I'm good. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah.
No. So anyway,
All right. So what's a CD where you feel like a majority of it was like, okay, this is good. I got my money's worth, my $20 worth or whatever it was.
well, I went through like an Offspring phase.
Okay.
So
So pretty much
What
if you
the
bought
Kids
an
Aren't
Offspring
Alright,
CD.
that one.
Yep.
Probably should not have purchased that CD. I don't.
Well, in hindsight,
I'm 99% sure that I had like a parental warning.
How old were you when you bought
Anyway.
that CD?
14.
14 years old?
Oh, I guess they kind of just were like, here you go. I don't know.
Well, I mean, at 14, I don't know. I feel like hearing bad words it's not like you were
it's not
7.
like I didn't know.
Well, and exactly. It's not like I thought you were going to say you were like 7 and you bought off.
And I was like, sir, I'd like to buy this CD, please.
Yeah.
No. But no, that was one of my favorites that I played until it started skipping. I guess I like wore it out or whatever.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. Do you feel like music stores, like they were called record stores at one point, right? Do you feel like they played a role in shaping music as we knew it in terms of popularity and pop culture? Or do you feel like they would stock things that got popular on the radio first? Or do you because you always hear about how music stores really shaped what people wanted to listen to because that's where they discovered it. But then I'm thinking of the other side where no, they heard it on the radio, so they go to the store to buy the album. It's a chicken or the egg situation.
Yeah, I don't know, because I went. And maybe back.
Did you ever
in the
discover
day,
a musician that you loved from?
No,
seeing
if I went to the store,
yeah,
if I went to the store, it was because I had heard a song that I really liked
on the radio or whatever.
The radio. Yeah, I was because it goes back to what I was saying before, like that roulette of like, am I gonna I wasn't about to drop $20 in some random freaking CD for me to be like, yeah, absolutely not.
So you never would talk to the sales just like, I really like this artist. Who else can you recommend? Because back in the day, they were probably pretty knowledgeable about that stuff.
They probably were. I was not asking those questions. I really wasn't. I would learn from friends, and so at most, like I said, I would get like a burn CD from a friend or a boyfriend or whatever. What was like songs like, oh, these songs made me think of you or something, like for birthdays. Like I feel like that was a huge thing.
Yeah,
I don't know about you, but like we would make, because
mixtapes,
we didn't have a lot of money, it's not like we were going getting.
Well, that's I would get burn CDs from my sister for my birthday.
Yeah, so it was like happy birthday, and it was thoughtful because they really like took the time to sit down and be like
curate a list.
Yeah, they were like, oh, these songs made me think of you, or these are songs that I'm sure you'd like, or whatever. So yeah, like as far as new music was concerned, either I went there because I heard it on the radio, or because a friend burned a CD and I really liked one of the songs or the artists on the CD, and I was like, oh, I'd like to learn more. So I personally didn't, but I feel like people,
But in that way, they all still, I think they still kind of helped shape things because that was the place you had to go to buy them.
Right.
So I guess in that sense, it was, it kind of went hand in hand with what you heard on the radio. Not necessarily like, hey, this new artist got popular because people were buying their CD randomly at a store. But it was more so like they heard this song. It maybe eventually like some people did pick up CDs. Like, oh, if you like this, you might like to try this as well. And that's how some artists got popular.
They do that with like Amazon Music.
Sure.
They'll like, oh, because you listen to this music.
Yeah. Or Pandora or whatever. Yeah, they all I think Pandora kind of started that back when we were in college.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Suggesting and just like never ending music. It just kept going. Remember that? That was amazing.
You're like, what?
Yeah. So I think the crux of all of this, especially as we got older, is that the mall became a place where we could just go either by ourselves or with friends and just hang out, right? And I can't tell. It was probably more so like either senior of high school or honestly probably college by the time I would because I'll tell you this, my parents never let me go to the mall and hang out at the mall as like a teenager or whatever. Like my dad basically said, like, you're not going to be a mall rat. That was his thing, right? So I didn't know what a mall rat was until the movie Mallrats, that I'd seen. But apparently it had a negative connotation. So, but what about you? Were you allowed to just hang out at the mall as a young one, or like were you older driving yourself at that point?
Honestly, one of the I was a freshman, and I had senior friends that I met at this place. I was working as a veterinary technician at a local animal hospital, and so they worked with me, or I was a kennel person, but they were veterinary technicians. But yeah, so I was allowed to go because they could drive.
Yeah.
And so if I was with them, yeah. So we went and we would eat at the food court, like, and then we'd just walk around with our sad paychecks.
Right.
That we got from the vet office. But yeah, I mean, we would, and then you would go, sometimes you would walk around and there'd be a group of people that you're like, we need to avoid them immediately.
Yeah.
And you would just like duck into a store until they passed or whatever.
Did you see a lot of people you knew at the mall? Or, I mean, because it was a bigger mall that you went to.
Yeah, but there were still groups and clusters of people
that you would know.
That you knew from,
because they were all going to the same place.
Yeah, it was in between. There were like 2 or 3 high schools that were within, at least 2 or 3 high schools that were within driving distance that you would see.
Yeah.
The particular one I'm thinking of. So like, the Mall of Georgia is the one that I would say I spent the other ones that I described, I went to when I was younger, but Mall of Georgia was like high school for me.
Yeah.
High school and like I guess we moved by that time, but high school, all 4 years of high school.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, or you would go, to get a homecoming dress or prom dress or something. You'll go shopping there.
Did you ever go on like a date to the mall and just walk around with a boyfriend or whatever?
No, actually, I don't think we ever. It was like we would go to the movies. So.
Sure, yeah, but you wouldn't just walk around the mall together holding hands or whatever.
No, it was usually just me and like my girlfriends or whatever.
Okay. Did you ever go by yourself though, just to walk around?
No,
never did that.
No. I
did that.
remember this is actually kind of a funny mall adjacent story. My sister and I is kind of a halfway gag. Again, money. We didn't really have much. We wanted to get my mom something nice for Christmas.
Yeah.
So we were like, you know what? Let's pool our resources and we'll get a picture. Now we were older. I was able to drive, so I had to be minimally like 17, 16, 17. I was probably 17 or 18.
Yeah.
We were like, well, let's get a picture with Santa. We'll pool our resources and get one of those little printouts, and Mom can keep it, whatever, because we hadn't had a picture with a mall Santa in like years at that point or whatever. So we had to sit there and go find a mall that was nowhere near anywhere where our friends would see see us sitting with Santa Claus. So we drove.
Do you think your friends really would have judged you though?
It was high school. We were all insecure.
Oh,
now I'd be like,
whatever.
Come for me. Please come for me. I don't give a shit. But we drove like an hour away to a farthest away mall we could possibly find so that we could take a picture with the mall Santa and I think she's got it somewhere in her house, a picture of my sister and myself.
Boy, and it's funny you mentioned that. I didn't even think about that until just now, but mall Santas. Santa. Yeah, Mike, and they're still going.
Oh yeah, we take our kids to get mall Santa pictures.
Well, it's been a few years.
No, we went last year, dude.
No, we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
No, we didn't.
I swear we did, because it's sitting out there. We usually put on the little credenza thing.
No, we got it done at the park. Remember? That was our Santa picture.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, fine.
No, the last time we did a mall Santa picture was before our youngest was born.
No, because he cried, he screamed. I remember we were at the town center.
That wasn't the mall? No, I'm telling you.
Whatever.
Anyway,
we're going to go look these up.
Right, we're going to have to, after this.
We're going to pull this out.
We're having a little dispute here. Anyway, but back in the day, like that's what you did. It goes back to the point that the mall was literally the center of everything.
Yeah,
like you could do everything at the mall.
Because those were the pictures you would get, your printouts, and also something else.
We would get family photos.
Well, yeah,
there.
the Olin Mills or whatever.
Yeah, well, for your senior photos, or JCPenney had their studio. I know we got. The other day I was going through stuff and I showed you my little ID card that they did for my photo. Yeah. That was like a JCPenney's photo shoot. That's what you could do that, and I think you still can. To be honest with you, I'm sure they still offer.
No, because now you've got people that will, like, photographers will come and like set up mini shoots and all this other stuff.
Well, sure.
So I don't know, because but yeah, you would go and get your yearly like family photos done once a year to update your picture frames and send them to Aunt Ethel, and yeah.
Oh,
I didn't even think about that.
I just keep thinking
I have one from the mall. It was like Olin Mills.
Yeah?
It's the three of us.
Is it the glamour shot?
The one that's blown up in Mom's room still to this day. And it's like poster size. And I was like, and my teeth were still effed up. I hadn't had my braces yet. I had fangs. And I had an ascot. Who the fuck? I'm sorry. Excuse my French. Let me out of the house and said, you know what? An ascot's what we're going to put on you today. And I marched myself in and mom had feathered her hair back. I had feathered my hair back. This had to have been,
Early 90s,
early
it sounds
90s.
like. Yeah.
And my sister with her bright, just yellow straw hair, and that's literally all you see. You see my effed up teeth and my sister's bright yellow straw hair, and it's literally lives for forever on my parents' wall. And
I think I've seen that.
size, 16 by 20 or whatever.
I think I've seen
absolutely
that.
not.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know how much my mom would have spent on that, but
Oh, man.
probably too much.
Good times. Another store. We keep talking about stores that like every mall had. Did you have a pet store in your mall?
Yeah, that's what I said. That first one, the first mall, we would beg. Mom hated it because it was directly across the way from the Friendlies.
Oh yeah.
So we would have Friendlies. We'd beg her and con her into getting us an ice cream, the stupid Conehead Sundae.
Yep.
And then we're like, I want to go see the puppies. Can I go see the puppies?
I loved going to the pet store.
Oh, yeah.
In hindsight, it's pretty messed up. Like I feel like
yeah.
there's just a straight puppy mill.
It is.
Because I feel like they don't have those anymore, like the pet stores in the malls.
Petland or whatever. I think
maybe they do. I don't know.
Well, and I haven't looked for one, but I know there was one at the one in Kennesaw for a little bit.
Yeah,
a Petland.
Maybe there still is. I haven't been to that mall in years, so I don't know. But that's it's funny because again, I say I haven't been to that mall in years. Up until recently, there's one mall that I go to every once in a while with our kids because they got the Lego store. But that's kind of the point of like this next segment is just really. People don't go to the mall anymore. Sometimes they do, and I'll say this: there are still malls that are bumping, right, where people will go and hang out.
Sugarloaf Mills,
Sugarloaf Mills, as an example. Well, and again, the Mall of America still a very popular place to go. But honestly, we're in 2023, and there's a subreddit that I follow. It's called Dead Malls, okay, where people will literally just walk into malls that are barren, and we're talking. Out of every 10 stores on a strip, maybe 2 are still open.
Yeah.
And of those 2, maybe one of them is a national chain, right? It's all like random places that you can go. Like one of them, I saw a picture, some guy like posted like you can buy like, I swear to God, like bail bond checks. You can get them cashed in this one place in the mall, right? So, and I don't know, well, I feel like I know, but like malls just went into decline in the last I don't know, 15 years, would you say? Like, when did you start noticing malls becoming kind of depressing and sad? Probably not all malls, again, but...
I'd say 10-ish.
2010?
I really noticed, like...
Yeah.
But when you think about it, because it wasn't just... So I think it's twofold. I think there's two factors, at least.
Yeah.
This is my, 2 cents. One being just the idea behind it, like we said at the beginning, of it being just this convenience, like, holy crap, you can just go to one place, you can get something to eat, you can buy a fucking puppy, and you can also get your school clothes, wardrobe. Like, so it was like a one-stop shop. But then now we have the advent, or it's been around for a while, but it's really, but Amazon, you've got Amazon.
Yeah.
Heck, even Walmart has a competitive online similar to Amazon.
Target. I mean, they all do now.
Target. So you have these things where you can buy all the same stuff and the UPS man or the USPS or whatever brings it to your front door.
Yeah.
So I think our definition of convenience has changed over the past, 15, 20 years.
Right.
B, socially, the way humans or children or whatever socialize has changed as well.
Yeah.
That was the hub because, I mean, yes, you and I had cell phones. They were a lot more limited. And honestly, I didn't really have one until I was even in college.
Same here.
It was just an emergency. Only my mom put 10 minutes on it so I could call for a situation. So as far as like meeting up and hanging out with people, because that's the other thing, you didn't have multiple lines. You had one line.
Yep.
At least for the middle class, lower middle class people. You had one line, and that was either taken up by your sister doing a research project on the internet or, your mom filing her taxes or whatever, I don't know, whatever.
Right.
And so if you wanted to socialize with somebody, it was a great place to get out and meet people and hang out and socialize. You weren't in your room, on a like texting or call, whatever the kids do these days. I assume texting and calling on your cell phone. But so socially, it's different than it was back then. So I think twofold, those are two factors that caused the decline because it was a place to meet up and hang out, but it was also a place to get your errands done, if you will.
Yeah. No, you're right. You could basically do everything in pretty much one place, most of which we can now do from the convenience of our own home. You mentioned photographers even, right? You know, like people will come to your house to do a photo shoot in your own house.
We've had the two baby shoots that we had
at our house. Yeah,
the lady came up, she did it. The maternity shoots.
Yeah.
All that stuff came to our house.
So really, yeah, what's left? I mean, you can get way better food for the same price at other places now. You don't have to go to a food court to get all that stuff that you want. It's pretty much everywhere. Arcades, well, I mean, they're not really that popular anymore.
No.
You know, there's people are playing video games at home, whatever. I mean, that's been for years now, but it's gone down significantly.
But again, it's the social aspect, you know, because you would
Sure.
go, yes, you could play, you know, Sega or whatever, N64 at your house when we were kids, but it was more so because you didn't have online. I mean, I'm not the expert.
Back in the day, yeah, no, I mean, we didn't get online till high school.
Exactly. So you didn't have online. So, I mean, it's fun to play video games, but I would think you would get bored. You're just sitting there playing, you know, so you go and play an arcade, you know, play a video game with a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, it's so just the whole, there's really nothing a mall can offer that you can't get elsewhere. Now, I will say this, like, again, the malls that are still bumping, I do enjoy going into stores and looking. I can't remember the last, I mean, I say that I bought something last time I went to the mall yesterday or whatever it was. But in general, like, I don't buy things at the mall. I'll see them and go, okay, let's look up and see what the price is on Amazon. It's probably cheaper. And but it'll give me ideas for stuff to buy. So, but in general, most malls that I've gone to are not worth it. There's just everything's shutting down, and I've heard different reasons for that. I think the main one is that, like, the whoever owns the land or whatever keeps jacking up the rent.
Probably.
And it's just pushing out all these stores that are not performing as well as they used to. I'm trying to think of other stores that, like, were, like, bumping that. I mean, we talked about KB Toys. That's long gone. Clothing stores, why? I mean, I did see a PacSun the other day. I feel like they're still around. Journeys, right? You know, you got these different stores, but I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's plenty of clothing stores that were like, oh, these guys aren't going anywhere, and all of a sudden they don't exist anymore.
Another one I just thought of that I would shop at, Charlotte Russe.
Charlotte Russe. I
honestly haven't seen one.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously it's a ladies' store, so I would never look for one.
Right.
What's the other one though? That's like it's like plus sized, but like lingerie or something I don't know. There's like something.
You were wearing plus size lingerie?
No,
Dan?
I was not wearing. No, it's like Hollywoods or something like that. Does that sound? I don't know.
Dress Barn, but
no, not Dress Barn.
That's an awful, unfortunate name, though. When you think, okay, I'm sorry. When you think about it, are you gonna want to shop at a place where you're like, moo? You know, like no. So
no.
Anyway,
or a Pottery Barn for that matter. You know,
but that to me, because pottery and maybe I'm getting farm to table vibes. There's a barn where we're throwing pottery.
I guess
we're getting, but Dress Barn, like, and it didn't just have plus size. It had like petite and like regular size clothes. But just the thought, because there was a couple times where mom be like, well, "Let's go in this Dress Barn. They're having a sale." I'm like, absolutely the F not. I am not wearing anything that came from a frickin' barn.
Oh my. Well, there it is. Yeah.
Anyway,
but like I know Hot Topic's still around. It's definitely different than it used to be.
Right.
Spencer Gifts is pretty much the same. I feel like that hasn't really changed that much.
I just loved, oh man, you remember like walking into Hot Topic and the first couple times it was like so freaking edgy because like you had the chick or the dude wearing like the really thick like black eyeliner and they had the most apathetic look on their face.
Yeah.
Like literally if the world opened up and like fire rained down upon them, they would not give a shit.
Yeah, no.
Like they would be like, no, whatever, man.
I feel like,
and they would keep stocking t-shirts and just stare coldly at you while like fire was raining down. They'd be like, whatever.
Well, every store back then had a stereotypical like employee,
sure.
right? You know, you talked about Abercrombie and Fitch, right? That was literally like they wouldn't hire ugly people like to work on the sales floor.
It's a whole documentary on that.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So like every store, like GameStop was. Maybe still to this day. I don't want to stereotype GameStop employees because if you work at GameStop, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but every time I've gone into one, at least one of the employees just doesn't smell very nice at all, and is just kind of gross and sweaty.
Oh my god!
No, I'm sorry. It's true though. Like you have, I don't know. Whatever. Am I a shitty person for saying that?
I don't know. I did not spend a lot of time in the GameStop, so
no, you didn't.
I cannot confirm nor deny those allegations.
But every time you've come into a GameStop with me, I've seen the look on your face.
it's just the standpoint of like I don't understand the
Okay.
video game culture.
There-
Sorry.
all right. Fair.
But anyway. No, but anyway, so yeah, like the hot yeah, you had stereotypical like the types of like people that worked at the different, you know. I hated, and this isn't the people, but like I hated if you would go into Hollister and it was always so friggin' dark.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm sitting there, I'm like squinting to figure out what the price tag said on
Well,
the
that's how they
stupid
get you.
shorts.
That's how you're walking out of there
I'm
with a
like,
$70 polo.
why is it so flipping dark in here? I could not see shit.
Well, and could you smell anything after coming out of there either? Because it
right,
just
I know.
smelled like a freaking frat house. I mean, it was
That's
with
fair,
the
fair.
cologne
But
or whatever
just
it was.
so dang dark.
It was.
It was so stressful.
And when it was an experience, you know, and I feel like that's how they were able to compete is they made it feel unique from other stores because you felt like you're going into this exclusive place or whatever, you know.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of stores tried to do that, but we just didn't give a shit. We're like, I'll just get it online. I don't really care about that anymore.
That's fair, yeah.
You know, and not even just stores, but like restaurants too. You know, we talk about the Rainforest Cafe. I feel like those used to be a lot more abundant than they are now. You know, as far as like kind of like themed restaurants.
Oh, I thought you meant. I was like, I don't know if Rainforest is closed now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
But like the themed restaurants, that's something that's kind of gone by the wayside because again, with the mall, you're already there, so you might as well just go to this random weird restaurant chain that's you never would have tried before. You know, I'm trying to think of like restaurants now that are still part of like anchored part as a part of like a mall or whatever. First one that I thought of was like the Cheesecake Factory. I feel like that's pretty much attached to every mall.
Yep.
And I've been to standalone Cheesecake Factories. Red Robin, that's another one.
Red
Yep,
Robin.
absolutely. There was one up north. I don't know if they had them down here. It's called the 99 Restaurant. Does that ring a bell? Okay. I know they just shut one down up in New York. I actually saw it on Facebook, but that was another one that was part of the mall where you could just walk up to it. TGI Fridays, I feel like that was
Fridays. Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Are they still around, TGI Fridays?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. We should do a restaurant episode.
Yeah, I hadn't seen a Fridays in a while, but I had been looking, so.
Yeah, well.
I don't know.
All right. Well, listen, any closing thoughts on mall culture? Like, do you miss it? Would you go back to that if we had the opportunity, or do you feel like it's had its place, we're moving on, life is better?
Personally, no, I'm good.
Okay.
You know, would kids I don't know. I don't think they would enjoy it. I think that was just a thing. I mean, heck, they even had board games, sorry.
Yeah.
Mall Madness. They were like, board games like surrounding mall culture. So I think it was just like a phenomenon for the time.
Yeah.
Could
it come back? I mean,
it would have to look different. It would have to look vastly different than it did, because again, the two reasons I cited, just the convenience that we have with the Amazon and Amazon-like situations, stores, and socially, we have morphed and changed. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that it could. It would have to look different.
Yeah.
Very different.
Well, and I think it has in a way, because you've got a lot of these now. Like we've got them all over the place. Like they're not malls, but they're like a mixed use areas. But you know what I'm talking about, where you can park your car. Like we've got them by. There's one called the Avalon.
Halcyon.
Yep, or there's Atlantic Station. So, and again, these are all local to Georgia, so I don't know what they'd be called where you live. Where basically you can park your car, and you can. And now they're outdoors.
It's open area.
It's like, I guess it's kind of a strip mall ish. I don't know.
No, because it's because you also there are like apartments and places you can live. It's literally like you said. I mean, I think that it's a mixed use.
Yeah.
Community.
You can live there.
Stores, you have restaurants.
Sometimes you have like there's movie theaters. You can get like there's venues for music. Like so maybe that's what it's evolved into, because you can't and people
That's
those
fair.
are packed.
That's fair. Yeah.
And you're social. You're bringing your families there.
There's dog parks. The Avalon, the one in Alpharetta's got like a big there's like a dog park there that's attached to it and things like that.
Yeah. So maybe that is maybe that is the mall culture of the 2020s. I don't know. I feel like that's the next most logical thing that has come from. But I feel like it wouldn't exist without the mall culture.
But it's mostly, and again, I haven't paid too terrible attention to it, but like, what is the median age that goes there though? Is it the kids or is it us?
That's a good point.
Is it our generation?
Well, I don't know.
We missed it so much that like.
And that's a good question because I've seen.
I haven't really paid.
I don't know.
Are they with their mommies and daddies though, being dragged around? Is it teenagers that go there? I don't know.
Have. Well, no, because I specifically remember going to a few of these where you've judged like teenagers walking around, going, "Those guys just walking around doing nothing."
Well, please, you need a little more clothing on. Thank you.
Well, okay.
Where's your mom? I'm saying. So whatever.
So I feel like kids are still going to them, but
okay, I guess
there are obviously a lot of older folks going as well,
Just
but I've seen
what the median age is.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know enough about them to know that statistic in particular. But I can say that they're very. I enjoy them. Like we'll go there often. We'll take the kids and we'll just walk around, or that's a great date night spot where because you can just park and walk around, and we're acting like it's this new thing where it's like, well, no, this is what the mall was back 25 years ago.
But it's outside.
But it's outside, so you get rained on as well. But the restaurants are usually better. The stores are usually better. The entertainment's usually better. And the vibe is usually better. So all in all, I think it's a step in the right direction. And I would agree. I loved mall culture. I don't think it has its place as it was back then now. I don't think anybody needs it or cares about it like they did back then. And I think that's okay. I really do. I don't think it's something that's missed too badly with everything else that's out there in the 2020s.
Well, it's just nostalgia.
Sure, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is if they were to take an old mall and give it the Stranger Things treatment where they made it look like it was in the 90s.
I think honestly, if they did that, I think so, like that
I would go
bumping. Like people would be like for the nostalgia. Now, would it last long?
That's the thing is
Probably
how long would it last?
Not, because usually these things come in waves. But
yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
What's that?
This just literally like lightning hit me in the skull. Do you remember the little kiosk where you could get your name written on a grain of rice?
Oh, shit. Yeah, I do.
We forgot about the rice grain.
Well, okay. I'm sorry. Before we wrap up, let's talk about the kiosks because there was also the one where...
Piercing Pagoda.
Well, there's Piercing Pagoda. No, that's a good one. It was the one where you had the chick from like Greece that was trying to sell you Mediterranean salts and like hand creams
yes.
and like
or the massage thingy
and the massage or nowadays it's like you can buy the little video game system that has 3,000 games on it and weird random fidget spinners. But back in the day, it was like hand cream, massages, ear piercings. Oftentimes, Verizon would have a little kiosk set up like for cell phones.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
But yeah, the grain of rice. And I was always the asshole because I go by Beth as my nickname.
Sure.
That is what I tell people that I meet as my name. My actual name is Elizabeth. And so I would always go up to the poor guy or girl at the rice writing whatever and be like, they're like, what's your name? Elizabeth.
It's a lot of letters.
And I would watch them write it on there. And then half the time, I wouldn't even purchase anything. They would just like write it on there and then hand you the grain of rice.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm good, thanks. And I would walk away.
You are a dick.
I was such an asshole.
Wow.
I was.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, nobody liked me.
Oh, man. I understand why. Jeez.
Oh, I was like, write this.
Oh, man. Good
sorry.
times.
I'm so sorry.
No, I meant to talk about the kiosks. That's a huge part of it as well, is just getting stopped by these. And just like, I wouldn't make eye contact. I would just keep looking.
Look down.
Or I'd pick up my phone and pretend to be talking to somebody so they wouldn't be rude enough to interrupt me. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I hate kiosks.
Or I would just be like, pretend I didn't speak English.
I never tried that. Yeah, I should have.
I'd be like, I would just nod and be like, I don't
right?
speak
Sorry,
English.
yeah. And then they start throwing different languages at you and see if you speak them.
No.
I don't know.
Oh, kiosks are great. Yeah, I mean, who didn't want to get their ears pierced by a hole punch in the middle of the mall?
Well, you could do that at Claire's, right? That was
yes, but and my sister. So I got my ears pierced at Claire's.
Yeah.
Inside, so I screamed in an enclosed space.
Yep.
My sister got hers done at Piercing Pagoda in the middle of the mall, adjacent to the food court, which is probably acoustically the most echoey part of the entire freaking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she screamed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame her. They literally hit you both sides with a freaking hole punch. Yeah, it's shocking. And so my 12-year-old sister just screamed out in the middle of the mall. It was hilarious. I mean, it wasn't hilarious. It was hilarious for me, not for her.
Well, I will close with this. One last thing we did not talk about with malls that I feel like we're at every single mall that I'd ever been to was the quarter-powered rides.
Oh, I was like quarter pounder. What are we talking
Quarter
about?
powered, sorry. Where you would put the quarter in and
Yes.
ride the little rocking horse,
Yes.
or you would go on a carousel if you were in a big fancy mall. You could actually
Yes.
ride a
Ours
merry-go-round
had a
inside your
merry-go-round.
mall.
Yep.
So that is the last thing I wanted to talk about because we didn't talk about those, and I feel like they deserve their own shout-outs.
No, that's fair, yeah, because I wasn't using those in high school, for obvious
No,
reasons.
but they were there. Like I know, like my little when we would go as a kid, my little brother got to ride the Barney train or whatever it was. You know what I mean? So anyway, all right, that's gonna wrap it up for us, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Seriously, I really appreciate you listening, and we're getting pretty close to like episode 50, I think, at this point. I don't even know. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the podcast. It's very exciting. It really is, and so thank you. You're the reason I'm doing this. You listening right now, whether it's at the gym or in the car on a road trip, you're mowing the lawn, you're going for a walk, whatever it is. Maybe you've got it on the background while you're cleaning the house. I don't know, but whatever the reason is, thank you. I really appreciate you, and if you can, like I said, recommend this to a friend. Leave a review. That would be amazing. If you could leave a review on like iTunes or a star rating on Spotify, that would be incredible. But just tell somebody about it. Recommend the show to them. If you want to support the podcast financially, I mean, certainly no obligation, but we have a merchandise site where you can check out different shirts and mugs and things like that. But even just listening every week, and I appreciate you tuning in. Our numbers are increasing steadily, slowly, but steadily. They're going up, and you know you're part of that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Beth. Thank you again for coming on the show, and hope your summer is going great so far. Happy 4th of July. This will be out after the 4th of July, but I hope your 4th of July was great if you're here in the U.S. And yeah, with that, I guess nothing more to say. We will talk to you soon.
Goodbye.